What is up guys, Professor Akali here bringing you a new item guide for the mid-season update, as well as my opinion on the new Rift Herald. I think that overall, these changes are really good for Akali and make her a much better, much stronger champion in this meta. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into the items. Alright, so starting with the new tank items as well as the item updates, I'm just going to be going down the list and quickly give my opinion on if they're worth getting. So the first thing we have is Adaptive Helm. I understand that it's meant to help against champions that spam the same spells like Rise and Cast, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be worth getting the item versus them. You won't have enough health late game for the 15% less damage you take to be meaningful, and there are other magic resist items that I think will be much more useful that will fit into Akali's core build. With that said, if the enemy team has Rise or Cast in a triple AP comp, or the enemy jungle, top, and mid are all AP champions, definitely pick up this item at some point. The next item is going to be Gargoyle Stoneplate, the item that used to have the components of a Guardian Angel, being a Chain Vest, Negatrons, and a bit of gold. I'm not entirely sure about this item, but I'm going to say that I don't think it's worth getting if you want to play Akali optimally. You already have your Shroud and Zhonya's, and if you sacrifice damage to get this item, you straight up just won't be able to do your job as an assassin or split push as effectively. At best, this is a situational pick that can be useful if the enemy team has multiple burst assassins, such as AP Annie mid and top lane Talon, and you just want assurance late game that you don't get melted, but even then you could just use your Zhonya's and your Shroud. At the same time, I do suppose I could also see this being a good item if you're snowballed and want to make sure you win teamfights, but in general, I'd stay away from this item. Next up we have Sunfire Cape, and it's a shame about this item being nerfed because it was a really solid item against multiple AD champions, but at this point Akali really doesn't need extra AoE burn to clear the wave since she does have her E, so I would stay away from getting this item in general. Deadman's on the other hand is definitely the new Sunfire Cape, but we'll talk about that when we get into it. For the next item we have Spirit Visage. I know a lot of Akali mains love this item, particularly the bonus healing you get from it. I do think that it's a pretty good item against multiple AP champions, but once again, I don't see it to be a highly valuable item. The new Banshee's Veil is just a much better purchase if you're looking for magic resist item, but I do think that if you're going against a full AP enemy team comp, Spirit Visage would be a great second defensive item after Banshees, depending if you want to go extremely defensive of a build, but I think I still prefer Mob Malmortius as a second defensive MR item, especially if I'm snowballing for extra damage. Spirit Visage is pretty solid though for sure. Next up we have Deadman's Plate. I definitely enjoyed reading this item's buffs. I now think that it's going to be very good on the new Akali, mostly because of how the passive works now. The health nerf versus armor buff is a trade-off for sure, but having Deadman's passive stack up almost twice as fast as before, and having it not pop when you auto a minion, makes this item way better than most Akali mains would think. Now that Deadman's passive doesn't pop on a minion, you can queue up your passive in a fight off of a minion or a jungle monster or whatever, and you can still get the burst of Deadman's Plate Crushing Blow a second later, as well as the extra burst from your passive now. I can't wait to get the Crushing Blow burst as well as my passive burst in one Q auto onto a carry. It'll take one-shotting to the next level. Basically, if that was confusing, you can use your passive burst as well as Deadman's burst at the same time now, whereas you couldn't before. Next up is Randuin's Omen. This item is very clear-cut situational, only to be bought against multiple AD carries or multiple champions that use crit. And I suppose you could purchase this item against a full AD comp, but I'd get it last after Gunblade, Ninja Tabbies, Zhonya's, Deadman's Plate, and Sunfire Cape. As for Warmogs, Akali never built it before, she's not going to build it now. Finally onto the good stuff, Banshee's Veil. I love this item so much. This is the most beautiful thing to see after Abyssal Scepter got nerfed a while back. Akali has always struggled with getting caught by vital spells such as Ash Arrow, Fizz Ult, and CCs like Morgana Q. Having a shield like this will help you rush down champions like Fizz and Morg, and there's nothing they can do about it now from a long range distance. This item is going to be the new second item in my core for enemy team comps with AP threats coming into the mid and late game. The shield really can't be undervalued, as it makes Akali's mid and late game even scarier for champions she can assassinate. It will be harder to peel her off, it will be harder to kill her, and she will still have some nice AP, CDR, and MR. Up next we have Abyssal Scepter. And this item is kind of confusing to me because I'm not sure if it's even worth getting, but personally I don't think I'm ever going to get it again unless I have a Rumble or a Vlad on my team to make use of the unique passive, and I'm going against an AP heavy team comp. It just doesn't seem good on Akali anymore. It used to be a nice mix of tankiness from the MR and damage from the AP, CDR, and passive, but half of that's gone now. Now we have the updated GA. You get no MR, half the armor, but you get 40 AD and 50% of your health on resurrection rather than 30. Honestly, I don't think this item is very good anymore since Akali doesn't get nearly as much value from AD as AP, but at the same time it's still got an incredible passive. I would say that this item is good if you're going to be teamfighting against a team with maybe maximum 1 AP champion, but mostly AD. As for Sterax, don't buy it. It's not good because it scales off of maximum health, and Akali really doesn't build health. Finally, we have Doran Shield. Wow, is this item a good new option for Akali at level 1. Like, really good. It's now 400 gold, so you get 2 potions instead of 1 at level 1, which is the reason I always told people to never get it mid lane without teleport, because if you used your potion early, you were screwed, and you would have to leave lane early and miss your level 6 power spike. Now with all these changes, Akali can farm under tower easier with the extra damage, as well as heal up when she gets poked, which is so incredibly valuable. So, as for the situations you'd want to get Doran Shield level 1 over Darksteel or Boots, I'd say against champions like Orianna, LeBlanc, Annie, Teemo, champions that harass you in lane and try stopping you from hitting a level 6 power spike, definitely get the Doran Shield. I'd keep getting Darksteel in favorable matchups you can win in Snowball, like Echo, Yasuo, and Zed, and I'd keep getting Cloth Armor and 4 potions in AD matchups that counter you, like Pantheon and Renekton, for extra defensive stats and survivability from potions in lane, but even then Doran Shield might be better depending on how many mistakes you make and how much poke you take. Alright guys, that is going to be it for the new and updated items. Let's quickly talk about Rift Herald and how it compares to the old Rift Herald. So the new Rift Herald is, in my opinion, generally better for a few reasons. So a good Akali can usually have Gunblade around 12 to 14 minutes into the game, and once you have your Gunblade, you can quickly and easily solo Rift Herald thanks to your Gunblade and passive sustain. Well, because of Akali's insane mid-game Gunblade power spike, she is able to defend and protect the Rift Herald buff while she sieges very well. You can build a wave quickly, summon the Rift Herald, and tower dive enemies with even a 1 to 2 kill lead, and at that point you can usually take towers for free. Not to mention, if you have about 4 or more kills early on around the 14-minute mark, you can potentially take Rift Herald and knock down multiple towers in a row, as well as an inhib, just abusing the fact that Akali can protect the Rift Herald so well with her assassination and tower diving potential. If the enemy team makes a mistake while you siege, or you make a pretty sick play as Akali coming into the early and mid game, you can take 15-minute inhibs, and actually pretty regularly too. So yeah, being able to solo it, on top of how many objectives you can take, along with the rush and fun you feel from summoning the Rift and bum rushing a lane, makes me think that this new Rift Herald is more enjoyable and is actually better for Akali than the old one, which prioritized a nice boost in split pushing power. And the last thing I'm going to include in this video are 4 core item builds that you can copy for Akali, but keep in mind every game is situational and you should really use your best judgment as to what you should get depending on your defensive and offensive needs. Anyways, with that in mind, let's start off with what you should build against a full AD team comp. My recommended build for you would be a Gunblade into Ninja Tabbies, into Zhonya's Hourglass, into Deadman's Plate, into Sunfire Cape, and finishing off with a Randuin's Omen or a GA. If you're going into a full AP comp, I would recommend Gunblade into Merc Treads, into Banshee's Vial, into Maw Malmortius, into Spirit Visage, and then finishing off with an Abyssal. You're usually not going to be using those 2 first builds because of how rare it is for the enemy team to be dumb enough to build a full AP or AD team comp, but with that in mind, let's talk about the actual builds. If you're going against a mixed damage comp and you're laning against an AP champion, what I would recommend to you is going Gunblade into Sork Boots, into Banshee's Vial, into Zhonya's Hourglass, into Rabadon's, and finishing off with a Void Staff. If you're going against a mixed damage comp and you're laning against an AD champion, the only thing I would change is I would switch the Zhonya's in Banshee's Vial. So I would get a Gunblade first still, Sork Boots, then get a Zhonya's, then a Banshee's, and then finish it off with a Rabadon's and a Void Staff. Once again, don't forget this is situational. You can get Lich Bane, you can get Magias. It all depends on what you think you need. Personally, if I'm snowballing, I'm probably going to go for Magias, and if that Magias ends up getting 20 or more stacks, I'm going to be going Lich Bane for those empowered one-shots, so it's really not as cut and dry as I wish it could be for you guys. Just try and use your best judgment. Alright guys, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, as always, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video. Peace! What's up guys, today's video is sponsored by my good friends over at Haste. They've created a brand new service to lower your ping in-game and reduce jitter, and also stabilize your internet connection. So if you're someone who randomly lags out, Haste would be perfect for you. It's completely free to sign up right now, and although they only have servers set up in North America, there have been success stories from other countries, so give it a shot. It's completely free. And since they built Haste for the sole purpose of helping gamers get a better connection, it's completely secure. So check it out, the link's in the description, I highly recommend it.